welcome to the realm of emotional intelligence. Before we go on and start looking into the topic of today's webinar, I would love to walk you guys through some of our guidelines. Yeah. Uh, the reason we are calling them as guidelines is simply because uh, we work from a level of perspectives, and you'll come to know in a minute. So yeah, we don't have a huge group today, so I'm sure everyone's already on mute, and please be ready to unmute, because we wish to have this session as one of the interactive sessions. Having said that, we are going to talk about perspectives, we are going to talk about viewpoints, we are going to talk about uh, you know things that are not uh, in general a theory kind of a thing. We're going to talk about variables, and that's why we don't have right or wrong answers. So please, if you have anything that you want to share, there'll be questions asked. If you have anything you want to share but you feel, okay, how can this be the right answer, so please be aware that there are no right or wrong answers for today's session. Following that is the third one, which is there is no such thing as stupid question. Yeah, because a lot of times it has happened with me. I'm sure it must have happened with some of you as well, that you sit in a session, you sit in a seminar, webinar, uh, you get a question, but you end up feeling a bit shy, or we think, okay, will others think that this is a stupid question? So please don't think that way. At least for this session, there are no stupid questions over here. Each and every question is valid. um, please use the chat box to ask questions, and if you raise your hand, I will allow you to speak. I'll allow the uh, microphone from here, and we can have a discussion. The last point and the most important one is we intend to make this a safe space. When I say safe space, it means that so our brain, human brain, is hardwired towards judging at each and every second of our lives. Uh, what we are requesting you for this 50 minutes is, uh, you you'll keep on judging. I keep on judging. We all keep on judging all the time. It's just that uh, we can consciously stop concluding those judgments. Yeah. So let that come, let that go. So we are trying to make this a non-judgmental space when we say this is a safe space. So, and that's something that we need to practice consciously. It's not a unconscious feature of human brain. So it's a request, if possible, please consciously practice not concluding your judgments, at least for the time that we are together. Having said that, at any point in time while I'm speaking, uh, please, if you have a question, if you have anything to say, please raise your hand in the chat or keep on putting that in the chat box. I have the chat box open over here with me, and every now and then we'll make sure that we address whatever you have concerns about. Yeah. So let's go ahead and start with the story. I'm sure this story, uh, everyone knows this story. Anyone who has heard of FIFA or football knows this story. So in 2006, the French football legend, we all know Zidane, and we all know what happened as well. Uh, he ended up headbutting one of the opponent Italian players, Materazzi, uh, in front of 28.3 million viewers, and that's a huge number. If you look at the story, if you look at Zidane's past games, records, and stuff like that, why do you think? And now this is a question for all of you. Why do you think Zidane did what he did? Please raise your hands or put it in the chat. Why do you think Zidane did what he did? Okay, I'm gonna assume that you guys are thinking about it, probably. So let's go ahead. He did what he did because okay, let's keep that for a while. Yeah, maybe he lost control. Uh, now let's look at this as a question. Let's not think about why Zidane did what he did. Has anyone of you ever lost control? Has anyone of you, without the violence, of course, has that happened? Has something like that happened with you? Just give me a yes or no in the chat box at least, or a thumbs up. Oh, nice. Almost a lot of times. Yeah, great. So, you see, that happens because it's called emotional hijack. Yeah. It's a very simple term. What happens is we react emotionally rather than logically. So it's not a response, it's reaction. We usually end up acting before thinking. Yeah. Uh, I'm sure we all have faced this. Oh, I did it, but I shouldn't have done it. Yeah. And then later on, we regret things that we did. And you know what's the worst part about emotional hijacking? That we all, nobody's safe from it, basically. We all can get emotionally hijacked. Uh, yeah, sometimes we say something we don't mean. And a lot of times we end up not just regretting ourselves, but harming some sort of relationships. Uh, so that's basically what happened with Zidane, and I'm sure that has happened with all of us at some point uh, in our lives. And that is exactly why we have sort of gathered today, because emotional intelligence is basically a tool that can help us mitigate the risk of losing control. So, why are we talking about losing control over here? Because having anger as an emotion is not a bad thing. It is giving you certain, information. Having fear, having anxiety, having, irritation, all these emotions which are usually labeled as negative emotions, having them is okay. It's okay to be afraid, it's okay to be angry. What's not okay is losing control. And that is exactly why we're here, and we're going to look into emotional intelligence as a tool. And that's the whole perspective of today's program, that how can we look into these emotions as are messengers rather than labeling them good and bad. And also, what could be certain competencies, what are certain tricks that we may want to use in our day-to-day lives, so that we don't end up losing control and doing something that we regret later on. Having said that, let's quickly look at this activity. Let's look at these questions. There are some fun questions, and I hope you guys end up answering these. So the first one is a pretty simple one. Uh, Tell me who inspires you and why. Anyone can put it in the chat. You can raise your hand. I can open up the mic for you. Who inspires you and why? Okay. So Mira has a few mentors and they inspire her. Nice. Ambika has a younger sibling. He inspires her to work hard every day. Okay. I'm going to assume that at least rest of you have someone or more than one uh, in your minds by now. So let's look into the next question. What makes you angry? Is there something that makes you angry? Put it up in the chat. What makes you angry? Incompetence? Mhm. When things don't go the way they were planned. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, yeah. Silly questions. Okay, lovely. Let's look at the next question. How do you have fun? Anything that you do to have fun, type it in the chat box. Reading, nice. I love reading as well. Friends. So I'm assuming going out with friends or meeting friends, chatting with them. Yeah, that's fun. Nice. That's it. Uh, Okay. You guys can read that yourselves. That's a funny question. Listening to music. Uh-huh. Yeah, that's nice. I love music as well. Um, okay. Nice. That incident itself was fun, wasn't it? Great, great. Thanks for answering all the questions. Next one. When was the last time you asked for help? Every other day? Okay. Yeah, I asked for help 10 minutes ago. Anyone else? When was the last time you asked for help? Okay. Get your puppy into taxi. Yeah. Okay. I'm sure it is a task. Hmm. ठीक है. Maybe we can talk about this in one of the slides ahead, being bad at asking for help, but it is fine. But still, do you remember when did you ask for help last time? ठीक है. So let's move on to the last one. How did you deal with a bad day? Now, I'm not asking you how do you deal with a bad day. How did you? Meaning, go to that time. Yeah, remember that bad day that you were having, and you seem to be doing it all the time. The asking for help wala piece. Nice. So yeah, that's great. And about dealing with the bad day, think about a day that already you have faced. Don't think about a random, okay, agar bura din hoga to what would I do? No, go to that bad day and tell me how did you deal with it. Came home, didn't talk to anyone, ate dinner while watching Modern Family. I can relate to that. So that series for me is Friends or The Big Bang Theory. Anyone else? How did you deal with a bad day? Okay, cry. Okay, yeah. Oh, that's nice. Just connected with a friend. Great. So, yeah, I mean, spend time with family. Yeah, that's pretty nice. One of the ways I have dealt with a bad day in my past is never getting out of the bed. Get frustrated easily. Okay, cool. So things like not being really good at asking for help, things like getting frustrated easily. I think we are going to look into that more in a bit. Listen to music. Huh. Music helps. Like I agree to that as well. So great. Thank you, everyone. Thanks a lot for answering all the questions. Now, uh, there are a couple more questions which are a bit different. First one is, which of those questions made you feel nice? When we say nice, happy, excited, peaceful, these kinds of feelings. Which of those questions? I'm gonna turn on the previous slide again. Which of these questions made you feel, nice? How do you have fun? Okay. Yeah. Inspiration one. Okay. And which of these questions made you feel not so nice? Meaning angry, sad, anxious, irritated, and so on. I think they're obvious, right? The one that about making you angry, uh, dealing with a bad day, probably. The help one. Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah, you're the one who said you're not. Yeah, you're bad at asking for help. Okay. Fair, fair. Thanks for answering. Now, why do you think that uh, a random stranger asking random generic questions, they were not really focused or very specific to you or anyone else, they were generic questions, it still triggered certain types of feelings in your mind? Why do you think that might have happened? So think about it. And this is basically another thing that we are going to talk about. How do these questions and your reaction relate to emotional intelligence? Yeah, because if any, as I said, random stranger asking any random questions can generate feelings, then definitely there must be, you know, a way to look into them. Maybe yes, maybe you have an incident related to that question, so that memory pops up, and then along with the memory come all the feelings. Yeah, that could be one way. Thanks for sharing. So going ahead, let's just look at the definition of emotional intelligence: the ability to identify, understand, and manage your own emotions as well as those of others. This is a very, very simple, generic definition, and we will sort of go into a bit of the details of it. But before that, let's look at what happens if we develop high emotional intelligence. Yeah. So people with high emotional intelligence, first things first, they know what they're feeling. Has this happened to you ever? Okay, you're not really feeling normal, but you can't point out, you can't name the feeling. Okay, I'm feeling something. I don't know exactly what's wrong. I don't know exactly what am I feeling. Uh, if that has happened with you, that has happened with me. It sometimes still happens with me. So basically, people with high emotional intelligence know what they're feeling. They will be able to name their feeling, and once you are able to name your feeling, it becomes all the more easier to deal with it. We are going to look at it, you know, a bit more at the end. So next one is they understand how their emotions affect others. Okay, so if I am very happy and I keep on talking to everyone that is attending this webinar right now in a smiling and hey, how are you guys? If I keep on doing this, it'll affect you in various ways. Some of you may feel, oh, nice, he's happy. Some of you may feel, why is he happy without a reason? And it's completely different, right? So you never know who's gonna feel what. But if we have high emotional intelligence, we may understand how my emotions can affect others, because it's not just emotions, our behavior depends on our emotions, which makes us ultimately communicate better, yeah, and build stronger relationships and make better decisions as well. Because if we know what we are feeling, if we know what others may perceive our actions and our thoughts, our feelings, then ultimately we get more information, and more information means better decisions. Yeah, so that's basically these are the couple of things that people with high emotional intelligence can achieve. Now, another important aspect about it, emotional intelligence has been said to account for almost 90% of people's success within groups with similar IQs and skill levels. Yeah, I have been uh, blessed enough to be able to hire people in the past. And this is my personal experience that if I have two candidates with similar skill sets, with similar, degrees and stuff like that, I'm actually going to go for the one who's better with groups, who's better with people. And that's basically emotional intelligence. And I'm sure, uh, oh yeah, sorry, I read it right now. The smushy feel is, yeah, you don't really, you feel something but you don't know what you're feeling. Yeah, that's a nice term. So yeah, basically, I'm sure many of you must have uh, experienced similar, that people with same IQ, similar IQs and skill levels doesn't mean that you know it doesn't end over there. If that's the case, and if there is only one uh, person who's going to be selected, then more or less it's the one with better emotional intelligence. So let's look into this aspect where is it really biological? Does it have uh, anything to do with our body, or is it just psychological? Yeah. So three simple points uh, and important points. So as you can see in the image, the gray part, the spinal cord connecting to the brain, that is the most primitive part. It is called brainstem. When our body is being developed, that is the part that develops in the beginning, followed by that small circle that you see, yeah, the limbic system, which basically is responsible for all our behavioral and emotional responses. And from there, we get the neocortex, which is the thinking brain. So, not going too deeper into the you know biology of it, in simple terms, our emotional brain is developed before our thinking brain. Uh, okay, I'm gonna take 1 second and come back. Sorry, guys, back. So, uh, as we were talking, emotional intelligence is very much a part of our neural hardwiring. Okay, so it's not something which is psychological. It's only psychological. It's not something which is, theoretical. It's very much biological, and that's one of the important aspects of, emotional intelligence. Going ahead, let's quickly do this activity. It's a small uh, thinking game. Have you ever said something like this to someone? Imagine, सच में पास्ट में कभी ऐसे हुआ है क्या, किसी को ऐसे बोला है क्या कि आई विल गेट एंग्री नाउ, या फिर मुझे गुस्सा आ जाएगा, या फिर यू विल सफर इफ आई गेट एंग्री. ओके. यस. ओके. So now go back to that time. I wish that as well. So go back to that time and think about when you said कि अब गुस्सा आ जाएगा, तब गुस्सा आ रहा था या आ गया था already? Already? Yeah. So that's usually the case. That and this is a very simple example that sometimes these emotions, while they are getting built up, and we are only using anger as an emotion simply because it's easier to understand, not to manage, to understand. uh, so and this is true for all sorts of emotions. Okay, that sometimes we don't feel that we are angry till the time it reaches to that extent. We don't understand the emotion, and that is when we end up saying these kinds of things, and then we also sometimes end up doing things which we regret later on. Yeah. So if we are understanding that, okay, मैं तो गुस्सा हो गया हूं अभी, and then we try to control, or then we try to manage it, it doesn't work easily, because your tone is already changed, your body posture changes, you actually your heart, right from your heartbeats and everything changes when anger comes. And I'm sure you guys must have experienced that. But now imagine, what if you really really get to know when your anger has just started. Yeah. So imagine that right now, because of we come to know about it when it's at the peak. It's like a button, and for button there is only on and off. Yeah. What could happen if you could understand that it just okay, now सच में मुझे थोड़ा गुस्से जैसा लग रहा है, if that started happening with you, what differently, what would you do differently? So think about what you usually do when you're really really angry. Yeah. And what usually happens with your own body tone, in general body language, and how it makes others feel. And think about, are there anything, any ways different? If I come to know कि अभी से गुस्सा आ रहा है, so what can I do? Maybe you can take a walk. Maybe you can say, I need a 10-minute break. Maybe you can, uh, tell someone that, hey, you know what, this conversation is not making me feel better. It's actually making me feel angry. So all these options get open in front of us, and that button sort of gets converted into, okay, this. Yeah. So the button gets converted into a wall. Now, I'm sure you know the difference. The button only has an on and off. Uh, and a wall, you can actually regularize the uh, intensity. You can decide how intense do you want to be. How you can decide कहाँ पे उसको छोटा रखना है. You can decide कहाँ पे उसको बड़ा करना है. So that's basically possible when we develop emotional intelligence. Now, up till now we were just looking at various aspects. Now we are actually going to look at the competencies. So self awareness is when you get to know that, okay, now I am starting to get angry. So being aware of your own feelings, being able to name them, being able to sit with them for a while is self awareness. So and also being aware about the kind of actions that you may take, the kind of behavior pattern that you may follow after those feelings arrive. So for an example, uh, I have met such people that if they feel uh, timid or fearful, they will actually leave the place, and that is not a voluntary action. They will start suffocating. They'll start breathing heavily. They'll say, no, I don't want to be in this space anymore, I am afraid, and so on and so forth, and they'll leave the physical space. But if they are aware कि अभी से ये डर लगने लगा है किसी चीज का, then there is a possibility for them to फिगर आउट कि कौन सी चीज का डर है और वो किस कैसे कम किया जा सकता है. दैट पार्ट इज सेल्फ मैनेजमेंट, विच इज द सेकंड पीस. Having said that, if our own feelings can affect ourselves so much, then for sure our feelings can affect someone else. Also, there could be feelings that they have their in internal, their own feelings that are affecting them. Understanding all these things, trying to at least gauge, trying to be aware of these things is called social awareness. Simply कि अगर ये it's as simple as that. We say ना कि जो आपके साथ आपको किया हुआ पसंद नहीं है वो दूसरे के साथ क्यों करना है. That's basically one of the beautiful and simplest example of social awareness. You will not like it if it's done to you, then probably you shouldn't do it with others as well. So and then it evolves. It doesn't just stay limited to that, but it evolves, because the fourth piece is relationship management. When you are socially aware, when you are aware about self, when you are able to manage yourself, there is a possibility that you may be able to grow relationships intentionally. And I'm not saying this is only used for growing relationships. It can be used. So let's imagine there is a troublesome uh, member, either in the family or in the workplace or wherever, friends, and you want to keep the relationship at bay. You want to keep it limited. You don't want to end it, but you want to keep it limited. This will help you in that process as well. How much do we develop it? In cases where you want to develop the relationship, of course, relationship is not a one-way thing. It is a two-way thing. So, but at least you will be assured that you have sort of followed your part of it, and it helps. So these are the four main competencies of emotional intelligence, which turn into, wait, something popped up. Sorry. So if you look at this diagram, which beautifully explains Goldman's emotional intelligence model, this self-awareness, which is basically self-recognition, it flows down into self-regulation in self-management, and flows sideways to social recognition in social awareness, which then again come together in the relationship management piece, which is social regulation. Now, if we are able, and it's a process, it's a conscious process. We need to keep on doing it again and again to be able to get better at it. It's like practicing basically. Uh, if we are able to do that, then the place where we reach is this responsible decision making. Now, what is responsible decision making? So it has a definition. It's the ability to make constructive choices about personal behavior and social interactions based on ethical standards, safety concerns, and social norms. Ethical standards, I'm sure you understand. When we say safety concerns, we are more talking about making people feel safe. जिस safety के बारे में हमने शुरुआत में बोला था, keeping this as a safe space, non-judgmental space. We're talking from that angle more. And social norms. Social norms are pretty simple. I mean, I always share this story when I worked with a European teacher for the first time in my life. I was quite young back then and did not know that they consider owl as an intelligent creature. And something happened. I did something which the lady liked, and she said, "Hey, you're like an owl." And I was like, "Mujhe ullu bol rahi hai?" And later on, someone else told me that it's not that way. But that's basically a funny example of social norms. Now, what is involved? So, identifying problems, analyzing situations, and creating solutions. Yeah. If we are able to walk through all the four competencies, then this is possible. Evaluation of consequences, reflection. Reflection is basically, even if कुछ चीजें सही गई है, कुछ चीजें नहीं गई है, but whatever has happened, we don't end up leaving it unattended. We reflect upon it, we try to learn from it, and ultimately ethical responsibility. Basically, we all hold a responsibility towards someone else that we are connected to, and those ethics is something I think it will take us a huge amount of time to discuss that. But whatever ethics, whatever system of ethics that we follow in our personal lives, in our work lives, it basically lets us be responsible towards them. Yeah? And this is an important aspect which we wanted to discuss. A lot of times, these emotions or emotional reactions, they're considered as bad. हमने शुरुआत में भी थोड़ा सा बात किया कि some of them are like labeled as bad. So it's sort of conditioning. None of it is for the, none of it is with ill intentions, because these are the examples. At young age, uh, we are taught to sort of bottle up our feelings. Yeah, we are told that don't be the drama queen. Yeah, another one could be, "Arey ladka ho ke rota hai." So all these things, uh, although they're well intentioned, they're not ill intentioned, but it still sort of teaches us to avoid sharing, or even avoid, you know uh, concentrating at our own feelings. And that's why we end up uh, avoiding our emotions, and then we lose access to the information that they share. As we saw in the beginning, that anger, fear, all these emotions are actually giving us certain information, and if we close ourselves down to them, we are going to lose the access to the information. And so this is a question that you guys might want to think about. How does avoiding your emotions might hamper your ability to connect to your own needs? This is on a personal level. Yeah. uh, कि हम कुछ emotions avoid करते हैं. We don't like certain emotions, and if that emotion is coming, we try to change the situation, come what may. Think about that emotion, which is personal. I'm not asking you to share it, but also think about, is it hampering any of the information that you're getting? Is it hampering your ability to connect with your own needs? Because if you're not getting the information, some of your needs may have been left unattended, and this is something for you to think. Yeah, so Mira is saying I end up fighting rather than communicating honestly what I need. Yeah, yeah, it happens. True. So yeah, and productively as well. Yeah, thanks for sharing. It happens with I think it happens with all of us in multiple ways, and in various sets of emotions. What's important is to understand that it exists. So, emotions aren't good or bad. We experience some emotions as pleasant and other emotions as unpleasant, jiska reason we just saw. Emotional cognition is not, it's not being happy all the time. It's not being positive all the time. I'm sure you must have heard this term called toxic positivity. Yeah, there are people uh, who are like compulsive positive people. Uh, and when I say compulsive positive people, it's like they have all the reasons, everything's gone wrong around them, everything's gone bad, and they themselves are struggling, but they still try to show off that they are positive. Yeah, and it's very unhealthy. It is very, very unhealthy. So this is not about being happy all the time and shunning the sad piece away. It's actually having access to all the important signals and information that both and many more emotions are giving us. Yeah. So as we looked in the beginning, okay, it is okay to be sad, it is okay to be angry. Yeah, it is totally fine. What's not okay is losing control. और ये losing control वाला piece all the time happy रह के भी हो सकता है. People can go crazy. How can you be happy all the time? You can't be happy all the time. I mean, if you say you're happy all the time, then something's wrong. There will be other emotions that you'll be facing, right? So think about for now, because I mean, maybe sharing those moments can extend the time. But think about a couple of, or you can put one in quickly in the chat box. Think about a couple of pleasant and unpleasant emotions that you have faced. Don't share the incidents if it's personal, uh, or you can just type the name of an emotion. It's a good practice to at least to be able to name an emotion. So maybe one pleasant one. Think about that nice thing you felt recently and what emotion was attached to it. Think about what was not so nice that you recently felt and what emotion was attached to it. And yeah, if you want to put it in the chat, please do. Now, this is important. How can we improve our emotional intelligence? So, first of all, identifying gaps between all the four competencies, and then learning and understanding what do we need to do. During the second wave, feeling help. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Coming to the office made me happy as well. And COVID was scary. Uh, Thanks for sharing. So, basically, identifying those gaps, learning and understanding what do we need to do to fill those gaps, and changing the behavior. What is important in this particular scenario is knowing is not enough. Yeah, everybody knows. Yeah, it's and because these skills are such that they need to be practiced. So only knowing how, okay, self awareness ye hota hai isn't enough. You'll have to practice it. You'll have to take that pause. You'll have to uh, you know take those 10 minutes off and think about what emotion was produced, why was it produced, what did it tell you, and so on and so forth. So just to be a bit more specific about it, first we need to develop a somatic vocabulary. What does somatic vocabulary mean? जैसे मैं अभी पहले बोल रहा था कि imagine when you get angry, you don't just get angry. Your heartbeat increases, your eyebrows go up, yeah, your lips get tighter, yeah, probably your palms get folded, they form a punch. See, when your posture changes, and ex- go back to that experience, or be aware if that happens to you again in the future. Your body is getting ready for the fight, and when you know what your body is trying to tell you, that's basically somatic vocabulary. हमें पता होना चाहिए कि ये होता है मुझे. So an example is, uh, if I am getting angry, what usually starts happening to me is I start losing focus on my thoughts. I can't concentrate on my thoughts. So and then you'll develop your own vocabulary for that. I can't tell you. I just gave you a couple of examples के heartbeat तो सबकी बढ़ती है anger के समय, and with different emotions it'll work differently. So you'll have to develop your own somatic vocabulary. Give yourself time to name that feeling. Yeah, don't leave it unnamed. थोड़ी देर पहले हमने थोड़ा सा इसके बारे में बात किया था, and I said कि we'll talk about it more. Let me just give you a quick example. uh, you go to your home after this session is over today, and you see some random person sitting into your house. How are you going to feel? You can type that in the chat. You go to your home, creeped out. Yeah, exactly. Any other feelings? Okay, I'm going to assume everyone's going to feel creeped out. Wondering how they are. That's another one. Kirti would be confused. Okay. So, but now the same person, you have asked them their name and they have told you their name. Yeah. Now, how are you going to feel? A bit better. So that's basically the difference. A bit, yeah, not much, but still, because someone has a, just they come in without your permission, and it's the same thing with your feelings, emotions. I'm sure many questions, but at least knowing their name, and if they tell you their name, it's easier to have the further conversation. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's basically an example that give yourself time. So the feeling is not going to tell you its name, but you need to give yourself time to name the feeling. So once you know the name of the feeling, and again, that is going to be again very personal thing. What could be anxiety for me could be fear for you, and so on and so forth. Nahi pata. Some of them are common, some of them may be different, but then you need to name it yourself. Also be open minded to other people's feelings, meaning जैसे आपको अलग अलग जगहों पे you get different types of feelings in different incidences. Be open minded that someone else is feeling something else as well. And the other aspect of it is, if you are feeling sad, it's not compulsory that everyone else should feel sad for the same thing. I might feel happy for the same thing that you're feeling sad for. Yeah. And that will still not mean any disrespect to you. So for an example, let's look at two football teams, and you are a fan of the football team which is opposite my team. You lose, you feel sad, I feel happy, same incidents, right? So that's basically being open minded to other people's feelings. I'm not necessarily trying to tease you or anything. I'm just genuinely happy because my team won. At the same time, it's important for the other side as well. Even if I'm happy, I should be mindful that okay, their team lost, so he or she is going to be sad. Being aware of your own effect on others. So we all have effects. When you sit in a room and one specific person walks in, you change. Yeah. Some people may have very subtle effects, some people may have an impactful effect. uh, an example is, uh, due to whichever reasons, but in the school or in the college, when the teacher came in, everyone was quiet, hopefully. That's basically the effect. And we need to be aware, वो सिर्फ टीचर और स्टूडेंट पे नहीं होता, सब जगह पे होता है. We need to be aware of that. Observe your own emotional reactions. Yeah. So you need to first observe, you need to first understand. If you trust someone, if you find someone trustworthy enough, go and consult with them. Ke, hey, you know what did you think of what I said the other day? Ask them, get feedback from them. That's another good way of observing your own emotional reactions. And finally, which is sort of tricky, hard, but practice emotional honesty. If you are not happy, don't say I'm happy. Yeah, a lot of times we do it because, oh, I thought it will make him or her feel happy, but that's just, I mean, uh, that's not going to help either you or the other person. uh, because what happens is 10 different incidences, one of the sides of the conversation does not practice emotional honesty, and 11th time, that is the side that's going to get frustrated, and things like, हाँ मैंने नहीं बोला पर तुम्हें नहीं समझता क्या. These kinds of things happen because one side does not practice emotional honesty. Like, if you're angry, say you're angry. If you didn't like the gift, say I didn't like the gift. It's as simple as that. You don't have to be like, one thing I always tell, uh, whenever I get a chance, that try to discuss your anger, don't express your anger. Yeah. So practice emotional honesty, but at the same time, make sure that you're not being rude, you're not being too angry, uh, too expressive, so that you will probably end up frightening someone. Don't do that. uh, Maintain the composure as much as possible, but practice emotional honesty. Don't ever lie about your emotions, is what one of the recommendations is. Now, final activity, if you wish to. and that's something you can, when the session's over, try to write down at least 5 situations from your life when you can practice anything from today's webinar. If there is anything at all that you have picked up, you have thought, "Ki, "Arey, let's try this." Remember, I shared about conscious practice in the beginning, about being non-judgmental. Uh, any of these, uh, pointers, they are not in our hardwiring. So you'll have to consciously practice, and that is why we are sort of asking this question. You may or may not answer this to us directly, but think for it, think about it for yourselves. Which would be those things that you want to practice consciously? That's the perspective of the question. Having said that, this is the quote we want to leave you with. And so, in a very real sense, we have two minds, one that thinks and one that feels. And this is by Daniel Goleman, who is the guy who coined the term emotional intelligence. So let's say he's one of the uh, forefathers of the term emotional intelligence and all the research that has been done around it. Uh, and yes, what I'm going to do now is, of course, along with thanking everyone, I'm going to open up a quick poll. I'm going to launch it. So please fill it up. It's just 4 or 5 clicks, not more than that. And you'll receive a survey right after the webinar is over. A request is to please fill in. And thanks a lot.